I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Phil Mackey, the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, Anthony Edwards, Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah. How about that?
Olympic gold medalist. Yeah. That was, my God, I know you were posted up at Target Field this weekend, and then the Vikings preseason game was happening, but I had like multiple screens going at different times. The last 60 to 90 seconds of that gold medal game where Steph Curry just decided, yeah, I'm gonna stamp my legacy by just bombing threes and ending this game.
That is so cool. Yes. That is so cool.
I heard one clip. It was the French play-by-play team, and there was, can't understand what they're saying because I don't speak French, but there was like the transcription over the social media clip. And one of the guys was just like yelling, "No, how is this possible? Like, how is he hitting these shots?" And so we see it in the NBA, but it must be so demoralizing when you feel like, especially France, you're playing a home game. You've got maybe the best player of the next generation on the court in Wemby.
Absolutely.
And you're right there, you're chipping away. You've got it to 5 points or whatever it is. And then Steph Curry just decides, I'm going to start taking, half court shots to stick a dagger in you. Just amazing.
And what's cool is like, this is probably, if you think about it with his age, like the last great moment, right? Like, I don't know if Golden State's going to win more titles, but like this was an unfilled thing on a resume that is unbelievable. And it's cool to have like this now in his back pocket as far as to your point. He basically, it sounds like, said, we're not going to lose this game. And then said, I'll just take care of it. Everyone else watch.
Yeah. And then, the go to sleep signal as he's looking up at Carmelo and Draymond Green. So I do have a couple of Anthony Edwards future looking questions for you here, but we are giving away a couple things on the Score North app right now. So the Score North app is a central hub. It's free to download. Central hub for everything we do. Purple Daily, Flagrant Howls, the Score North Twin Show, you name it. And we also give things away on the Score North app, like a 75-inch Roku Pro Series 4K TV that automatically adjusts color and sharpness for whatever you're watching, movies, basketball games. Nearly an $1,800 value. We're giving it away for free. You can register now in the Score North app under Listener Rewards. Also, we're giving away a 4-pack of Renaissance Festival tickets. The Minnesota Renaissance Festival open weekends, August 17th through the end of September. And there's a 4-pack of tickets in there in the listener rewards section of the Score North app. So I came away from this Olympics thinking, well, two things. One, the world continues to catch up to USA men and women. The women also played France.
Big scare.
And they had hit a couple free throws. I mean, that woman from France hits that shot to tie the game, but her foot was on the line. And so USA gets out unscathed. I mean, the USA men were down by 14 points in the fourth quarter to Serbia in the semifinals. And it's like this. So two things here. One, there's this extraordinary pressure because we all link back to 1992 and 1996 and the Dream Teams, where we have set a standard that if you are a USA basketball team, if you lose a game, even if it's in the pool play, but if you lose a game and you don't win the gold medal, it is an epic, colossal failure, despite the fact that a lot of the best players in the world on the men's side don't play for the United States.
To which, I don't think, if you really think about what you just said, I honestly don't think that's fair now.
I agree.
Like, they're going to lose games. Like there will come a day, but I mean, that's what makes the NBA so great now is that, right? The influx of guys from countries that never used to play here. And so, I would, if I'm a basketball fan, I appreciate this for like what you get to watch. But like, if you think that this is USA domination, it's changing. Yeah. It's changing in both. And that's the best thing that could happen. There's nothing worse than like the US and Canada, women's hockey, right? They're always playing. It's like they're always playing. It's because other countries aren't good enough. Yeah. It's not because they're the only countries that are really good. So I've always appreciated when other countries spike up. I think it's fantastic. It's the best thing for the sport. You want that competition.
It is, but it's especially if you start to look ahead to 2028, which is the other conversation I want to get into. and you're going to lose LeBron and Steph and Durant and these other, like France just put 4 first-round picks, 4 lottery picks in the mix on top of Wemby. Gobert is kind of fading out as an international key player. But when you look back at those 1992 and 1996 highlights, particularly 1992, these other countries, first of all, the basketball they were playing it's like walk into your local Lifetime and just select 5 random dudes to play against Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley. They can barely handle. They're going up for layups and getting swatted out of the gym. They weren't NBA players like there are now.
Right.
But they were literally asking for autographs before and during the games and during timeouts. Can I get a picture with you?
Yep.
And now 30 years later, I just pulled a snapshot of the top players in the NBA this last season ranked by win shares, so all-encompassing analytical stat. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 7 are international players. Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis, Domantas Sabonis, sneaky good player, by the way, Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, American, and then Rudy Gobert also because of how great he is defensively, ranks really high in win shares. So, the world is going to keep coming, and you saw how close of a shave it was. You literally needed a 15-point comeback against Serbia in the fourth quarter, hair on fire, and Steph Curry bombing near half-court shots to ice that game against France. And you're losing LeBron, you're losing Curry, you're losing Durant, you're probably losing, based on age, Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, because they're going to be like mid-30s by then.
Yeah, I'm okay with Embiid.
Embiid, yeah, he had a couple big shots, but generally just flopping around and
just not. I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan.
Drew Holiday is 33, so he's going to age out.
Yep.
So that leaves Tatum from this year's team. Tatum will still be in his prime. Halliburton, who didn't play, but he'll be in his prime. Bam Adebayo will still be like maybe 30 years old, and you need size. Devin Booker will still be in his prime, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Derek White, role player, and Anthony Edwards. And that's the premise I want to float to you is, and we could go through a list of which 6 or 7 players are you adding that are American? Is Zion going to be healthy enough in 4 years? Who else are you adding?
Right.
Is there a good chance that the 2028 U.S. men's Olympic team is led by a 26-year-old Anthony Edwards in 4 years?
Absolutely. Yes. There's a very good chance. I think the only question, and this is going to sound completely bizarre coming from a Timberwolves standpoint, but I think the only question is when those games begin, does Ant also have championship cred from the NBA?
Ooh,
because that's a potential too, and that helps your credit. Like if you want to be the lead dog, right? It helps to have that ring as well. But yeah, I think there is no question that with his personality, his ability, the fact that he came off the bench in these games and we didn't hear a pip about that. It felt like everything I read that he absorbed this, he drank it in. This is great. I'm playing with Durant, who I love. So yes, if we're talking about the Olympic Games and the torch, could the torch be passed to Ant? 100% it could be. It's
going to be a tough spot because, and maybe it'll just be so obvious in 4 years that, oh man, yeah, he has evolved into this ridiculous player. And then there's some other guys on this team that have evolved. But if the world keeps creeping forward and you lose 3 all-time greats that really took that game home, both of those last 2 games, there were some good performances by Devin Booker and company, and you needed the size of Anthony Davis. But it was legitimately LeBron, Durant, and Steph Curry willed Team USA through the last 2 games. Is Anthony Edwards going to be capable along with Jason Tatum, or is he going to be set up like some of those younger guys were back in 2004, where the old guard had gone away, like the Jordans and the Scottie Pippens and some of those players, and now it's these other young players are left holding the bag with a new coach, because that's when they brought in, what's his name, Larry Brown, the 2004 bronze medal team.
It sounds like it might be Spoelstra this time.
Yeah, because Steve Kerr's probably done.
Which, by the way, would be fine. He's a hell of a coach.
Spoelstra, I think, better chance to connect and build this thing than Larry Brown did. Ancient Larry Brown back in 2004.
Yes. But the thing with Ant too that I love is So the one thing you know about him from a personality standpoint, and it translates to the floor, is you know that if he gets that mantle, that he is going to try to. He's not going to shrink at all. Like he might struggle in games, I don't know, but I mean he's not going to shrink. It's not going to be a. I don't think there would be a conversation of can Ant handle this. I think Ant has proven that he can take on a lot, and quite frankly, when he's competing against you, as popular as he seems to be, he wants to rip your heart out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things about Ant that I think would be a real positive if he was considered to be at least one of the lead players of the next team. And yeah, the Larry Brown thing, you're right about that too. I mean, that was a weird move. I think a transition to Spoelstra would actually work out really well.
I do too. Yeah. And I mean, Ant seems to have a connection with the rest of the guys on that coaching staff as well.
Of course, then let the Ant to the Heat.
Well, did you see that LeBatard thing?
On LeBatard, yeah.
Let's do a side street on that real quick.
Okay.
It was, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm kind of paraphrasing. Dan LeBatard, who's very plugged into, obviously, the Heat.
Pat Riley.
He's also really plugged in with A-Rod. I mean, A-Rod went in and did like an hour-long South Beach Sessions interview, so they're buddies from Miami.
Yep.
And he essentially said, hey, I just want to paint a picture. This is kind of some buzz I'm hearing. He connected it to the Heat, but it could be anything. He said in November, there's this hearing to determine ownership of the Timberwolves, which we all know now. Glenn Taylor versus Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry. And if Alex Rodriguez doesn't, he was talking about it from an Alex Rodriguez. He didn't really mention Mark Lowry. He was saying Alex Rodriguez versus Glenn Taylor, even though it's Mark Lowry owns the bigger chunk financially.
Let's just say I would guess the off-the-record conversation with Dan and A-Rod did not involve Mark Lowry.
Or it was very much an A-Rod, Dan LeBatard centric discussion for sure.
Exactly.
And that if Glenn Taylor wins the hearing in November and maintains ownership, Tim Connolly is going to leave then next summer and opt out of his contract. And then Anthony Edwards would start to look around and say, well, these people that I was really excited about building this thing with, Tim Connolly, gone. Now, Gerson Rosas drafted Anthony Edwards, but Ant has built a good relationship now with Tim Connolly.
Tim's good.
And A-Rob was at Ant's birthday party in Paris, his surprise birthday party a few days ago. That if all those guys are gone, Anthony Edwards is going to look around and be like, well, I ain't staying here. Why would I stay here and work for 85-year-old Glenn Taylor?
Yeah.
And then at that point, Dan kind of built a bridge to the Miami Heat. But I'll say this. He's not wrong about the uncertainty of the future. Tim Connolly signed on to work for Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry.
Yes.
A lot of Wolves fans were dismissing this as like, oh, this is just like classic national media. If Connolly leaves and A-Rod and Lowry are no longer a part of this, there's a lot of questions about what would happen going forward. A ton of questions. Those are fair questions.
I've told you from day one, if they and Connolly fortunately just extended his opt-out by a year. But I've told you before, he didn't come here to work for Glenn. Like, if we're to believe the story, Glenn didn't really even know who he was. So do you think he's going to, and it's not like Connolly's from here. He has no ties here. Like, he basically said at the end of the season, we're starting to get to know the state, which I don't blame him. He is a basketball junkie, right? So you really think a guy who is a big part of the reason why the Timberwolves have turned around is going to stay here to work for Glenn? This is why I told you, one, I think it's imperative that Glenn lose this. It's not that I think that Lowry and A-Rod are surefire it's going to be spectacular, but yeah, I think the amount of bailing that could go on if this thing just sort of defaults to Glenn and then Conley leaves. I mean, this franchise has made such extraordinary strides. And one reason is because we all thought it was going to be sold. And if now it's not, I mean, I don't even like, and I'm not sure how you feel about this. I don't like at all the fact that this arbitration thing is going to go into the season. I know the players don't care, but it's an unnecessary distraction for everybody. We don't know what the future is. The building needs to be replaced eventually. Yeah. I know it's fun right now, and Ant's great. And yes, I embrace the fact that the Timberwolves are finally relevant and really good. But from a front office standpoint and a team standpoint, I hate what's going on.
Yeah, I would just like my last point on this, but it's been probably 2 months since we've talked about the ownership stuff because there's really there's nothing, there's no more ground to be gained on this until the hearing in November.
And we're sort of forgetting about it because of that.
Yep. But it still lingers. It is still this stench and this gray cloud that sits over the organization that we don't know who the majority owner of the team is going to be in the second half of this year's NBA season,
Correct.
Let alone in 3 years or 5 years from now. So until the questions are answered about what does this all look like from 30,000 feet, it is fair game for the Dan LeBatards and other media members to speculate on the future of one of the highest profile best players in the NBA, Anthony Edwards. I don't think it's a thing this year. I don't think it's a thing next year. But like, is it a thing for the 2028 Olympics if all of a sudden the ownership situation is creating a bunch of ruffles throughout the front office? Like, yeah, I mean, it is until this thing is solidified, it is going to be open season on Anthony Edwards around the country, around other markets, as he continues to raise his profile.
Yes. And it's going to be hard. If Glenn gets the team or if Glenn keeps the team, the other factor is signing guys. I think the excitement with Laurie and A-Rod is, okay, new GM and Conley or a Pobo and Conley's done a fantastic, but if he bails and now it's just Glenn's team again. And
well, the comeback to that though would be Glenn has shown a willingness to spend into the second, like he's the one writing checks into the second apron.
For now.
And Mark and Alex are the ones trying to come up with money at the last minute.
Agreed. But here's my theory about that. I think Glenn wants to clearly keep the team, maybe sell it again for more. That's the thing we don't know. But the fact that Glenn is writing these checks, here's my question. If he gets the team back, like if Laurie and A-Rod either just go away, get bought out, whatever happens, Phil, is Glenn going to continue to write those checks? Or once he has gotten what he has wanted, is he not going to? Because this isn't like normal Glenn operating procedure, what he's doing right now.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you, I've got some legit concerns that I have backburnered because the whole thing has been put on that back burner.
Yeah. So I don't know, that was just a side street. I mean, the LeBatard thing made some headlines a few days ago, but right now this is all headed to be Anthony Edwards' team and league in 2028, along with some other guys. I mean, but the thing is, like, Jason Tatum doesn't have the personality of Anthony Edwards, doesn't have that sort of leadership alpha dog. Devin Booker too, a little bit. Devin Booker's a good player, but he kind of feels like a really good secondary player on a top
dynamic
team.
I think he is the most dynamic personality to go along with his killer instinct.
Yeah.
Of that potential roster.
Let me float before we wrap this podcast here. Let me float a few other American names that could potentially join Team Anthony Edwards in 2028. So Anthony Edwards, let's assume that Ant comes back, Tatum comes back, Halliburton, Bam, Booker, and let's put Derek White back on the team or not, whatever. Like maybe they find a different Derek White.
Yeah.
So you have to add like 6 or 7 players to fill out the roster. Jalen Brunson is going to be like 31 years old.
He'll probably be retired by then because Tibbs is going to play him into the ground before 28. He'll be
John Morant,
60-year-old.
if he can stop flashing guns in Instagram videos.
Yeah, he's got to get his life straight.
Zion Williamson,
if he
played 70 games last year.
If he stays in shape, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's a commitment because he's the type of guy who looks at food and gets fat. So, but seriously, if he stays in shape, very much so.
Good thing it's not in Paris, or he'd be eating those beignets. It's going to be in him.
Man, do you know how bad they are for you? Tons of
calories.
So
tasty, though.
Which is funny because they're really light. Like a croissant should not have a lot of calories. It's a really light food.
A lot of sugar.
Anyway, I digress.
Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown was a snub this year. He'll be in his prime still.
I bet he makes it.
And then I'll throw a couple, because you need some size. Like Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid are likely not going to be on the team, and you're going to need some dudes to rebound and pound the paint. I would say Chet Holmgren although he's more of like an outside big man. But Chet Holmgren, and he can snag some rebounds. And then Evan Mobley is another one to keep an eye on here. He's like 22 years old. The other thing you could do is just do what like some NBA teams have done, the Lakers and the Heat, and just try to recruit a super team. Go find like the dual citizenship guys. Could you recruit Jokic from the Serbian team to play on Team USA?
But what about Wemby?
Yeah, could we recruit Wemby?
The Joker would not do it.
Probably not.
Wemby, though, it's like, you really want to lose again?
Giannis, is he going to be too old? Can we get him over from the Greek team? Dual citizenship? I don't know. I mean, that's like Embiid had 3 options. He could play for France, is why they booed him every time he touched the ball. And then was it Cameroon?
Yeah, and he is now threatening. He's now threatening in 28 to go play for Cameroon, to which I say, yeah, okay, dude, that's not a threat. You probably aren't going to be on the team in the U.S. You should go play for.
He should.
Because Cat played for Puerto Rico in a tournament once, right?
Dominican Republic.
Okay.
That was in the FIBA. That was in the World last year.
Yeah, you know what? We don't talk about that, and it's not a surprise at all. But the night Cat was drafted 1 overall, if I had said, hey, Phil, newsflash, no chance this guy plays on the 22 Olympic team, I think you would have been like, oh, slow your roll here. This guy very well should be on that team.
Of the 24, yeah, like this year's team.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Yes, the 24 team, 22, 24, whatever year it is. Yes, but I mean, he's not even considered.
Yeah, you would have, even like 4 years ago, you would have said, oh, as you're looking for options that are going to be 29 years old,
outside shooter.
Yeah,
he profiles.
Yep.
That guy.
But now in 4 years, he's going to be the back end of the age cliff.
He's got no chance. He might, and he also might not be a Wolf in 4 years. I don't know.
So Team USA, Anthony Edwards, 2028. Hopefully he's still a Timberwolf in 2028 and not a member of the Miami Heat or somebody else. But I'm not. Yeah, I think you build connections. I think it's more likely that a connection that he made at the Olympics would join the Wolves at some point than Ant goes and joins another team in the next
at the
4
end of his career
years.
would be great. The other thing is you're going to need Ant to get a building. Like if and when, and hopefully it's when they get a new building, it's going to be the house that Ant built.
Yes.
Like you don't lose a player like that and then say, hey, but by the way, can you help us build a new building?
Yeah.
So he's the driving force. There's no question.
All right, that's a wrap on Flagrant House here for today. If you haven't already, please give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple and Spotify as we move forward toward another Wolves season. We will either this week or next week, Kyle and I are going to hit you guys with a top 100 updated Timberwolves ranking, and you and I can go through it too.
Oh,
very excited for that. So, Flagrant House.
Where was Ant last year?
I think he was definitely top 5.
Okay.
He might have been like 3rd, but I don't want to spoil it.
No, I know. No, that's why I asked. Where was he? It's a tease. Where was he last year?
I'm not going to spoil it, but
no, don't spoil it.
He's climbing up. This is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast, Flagrant Howls.